Welcome to Dog Explaining, where we break down what your dog is really trying to tell you. I'm Dana, a canine coach and holistic wellness specialist focused on nutrition, energy work, and essential oils. I'm on a mission for your dog to eat better, feel better, and live longer.
And I'm Angela. I'm your 456 wellness and behavior coach, focusing on helping you understand the connection between 4 balls, 5 elements, and 6 fun tricks.
We're here to help you connect the dots, behavior, food, health, and everything in between, with honest conversations and straight talking guidance.
If you're ready to get past the noise and actually understand what your dog needs you to know, you're in the right place. Now here's today's Dog Explaining episode.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dana Brigman from the Well of Canine, and have Dr. Barb Fox with me. I'll let her introduce herself in a second, but we're going to be talking about detoxification, sort of a buzzword, hot topics, but also something everybody really needs to understand and to take action on. So welcome, Dr. Barb. Tell us about yourself and your business, and we'll jump right in.
All right. Well, thanks for having me back on, Dana. It's always a pleasure to be here and talk about like-minded things. And so anyway, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Dr. Barb Fox. I am a holistic veterinarian from Northeast Iowa. And my job these days is to help empower pet parents to be able to choose the right supplements, the right foods, the right everything for their animals' well-being. And I do that through telemedicine, which is basically picking up the phone and talking to you or doing a Zoom call. And, I help a lot of pet parents across the country, and I absolutely love what I do. So I'm really excited to be back.
Awesome. So as we think about today's topic of detoxification, what does that really mean? What are we doing when we are starting something we call detoxification? I think many people tie it to vaccines, but it's way bigger than that, right?
Oh, absolutely. So if we just think of the real simple definition of a toxin, it's something that is harmful to the body and it shouldn't be there. So I have a list of things that I compiled as different types of toxins. So that can include heavy metals. It can include heavy metals like barium, cadmium, strontium, aluminum, and much more. And that can come through the air. It can come through food. It can come through vaccines. So I should
Water.
say, water, absolutely. And then agricultural chemicals, yard and garden chemicals, those are all toxic to our animals. And that can include things like 2,4-D, glyphosate, all the different pyrethrins and permethrins that are synthetically produced. And then we did mention vaccines. So mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde, and different antibiotics and other drugs and preservatives, dyes that are in the vaccines go into our animals. Household cleaners are a big one that people don't think about. And even if you're using a chemical on your floor that you're not coming in direct contact with, think about your kitty or your dog walking across the floor, and the pores on the bottoms of their feet are big. And so they are readily absorbed into the body through the feet. Parasites are
fur, right? I mean, I always say our dogs and cats are barefoot and naked in the house, and they're getting it from anything they walk on or lay on.
Exactly. So that can, other toxins would be like your flea and your tick and your heartworm products. Parasites, bacteria, yeast, fungus, mold, viruses. Well, these are all categories of toxins. Industrial pollution. So if you live in a factory, an area where there's a lot of factories, you're getting that through the air and through the water droplets and everything like that. Insects can cause toxins to be pushed into their body when they bite. There's toxic stuff in their saliva that goes in. Pet food. People probably don't even think about toxins in pet food, but it's a big one.
It's a big one.
There's a lot of preservatives, BHT, BHA, other additives, dyes, artificial flavorings, you name it, and then medications and drugs. And I'm sure there's more toxins, but these are the main categories.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that when we think, you asked me, what is detoxification? What is a toxin? And so we've kind of defined that. But before we jump into talking about detox, I think it's important to understand that before you take it upon yourself, and I mean all the pet parents, if they would just think about how important it is to get the toxins out of the body before we start adding expensive supplements and expensive food and homeopathics and other therapies, because for the body to be able to absorb the supplements and the good food and stuff, we have to have a healthy liver, have to have a healthy GI tract. And if that's all full of toxins and crap, then nothing's going to work. And it's just a waste of money and it's a waste of time and it's not making your animal better. Does that make sense?
It does. And I also want people to understand it's not just a one-time thing,
Yeah,
right? That
right.
it's sort of ongoing. I think in our last podcast, you said something about you detoxify personally virtually every day,
Yeah,
right? And so I think we need to help pet parents understand what that might look like for their pets or for us. I often recommend a seasonal approach. Like we can't do everything on the same day, but sort of have
right.
a rotation of strategies that we're working on the whole body.
Right. And I think that's really important. People tend to think, well, the detox is just a one and done. But if you think about what we're getting assaulted with every single day, our pets, I should say, and us, it's not just us, it's not just our pets, everything around us, every living thing around us is getting assaulted with toxins. And so, yeah, you just can't say, well, I detoxed last month, so I'm good for another year. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, as we were preparing for this, one of the questions that I suggested was I often see in our Facebook groups, people come in and say, I need to detox after vaccines. What's the protocol? And I want you to explain why there are sort of some standard theories out there, but why it may not be the right one for everybody.
Okay, well, first of all, I think people have to understand that a vaccine that is manufactured in a pharmaceutical facility is not just the killed or the inactivated antigen. So that would mean like your distemper virus or your rabies virus. And then because a lot of people think, well, it's just that plus saline, which is the salt water that we can't just use sterile water because that would burn if we injected that. But a lot of times people just think it's just those two things that go in that vaccine vial, but there's up to 22 different what we call excipients, which can be the heavy metals, like aluminum is a huge one because it's used to strengthen the immune system's response to the vaccine. And then we can have things like foreign animal cell lines. That's what the culture is grown on. So if anybody has ever heard of monkeypox, I mean, that sometimes is added into our vaccines. We can have things like preservatives, thimerosal is a huge one. And then we have, the different dyes, antimicrobials, antifungals, hormones, you name it. It's just, I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's kind of a crime as far as I'm concerned, what is all put in the vaccine. And once you inject that into your animal, it's or those things, I should say, once you inject those excipients, it's really, really hard to get them out of the body.
Right. Yeah. We talked about that on last time's video. So people go back and watch last week's if you haven't already.
Right.
So when we talk about detoxification, one of the things that may be new to people that I hear presented more and more often now is detoxification pathways. What would it mean to say that they are not open? And then how would we open them?
That's a good question. I think that's kind of a gray zone. I'm not sure if I can adequately answer that, but a detoxification pathway would be like your lymph channels. So if you think about anatomically, we and our pets have tons of lymph nodes all over our bodies, I should say. And so we have to get those toxins kind of rounded up and then sent to the excretory channels, which would be the lymph vessels and then the bloodstream and into the kidneys and to the, I should say, the liver, then the kidneys and out the body. So there are different products that can help sequester or round up those toxins, bind them, and then ship them out of the body. Just trying to put this in the simplest format possible because it's very, very complicated.
Right. And so you mentioned this binding process. I think that is something that at least I'm talking more about, maybe even learning more about, but hasn't always been sort of part of the Facebook group, right? It's when you get behind the scenes and really talk about how to do a good detox, that starts to show up. And I think people don't recognize the importance of not just stirring things up, but collecting them and making sure that they do get expelled.
Correct. Yeah. And, you know, like I said before, we still have to think about getting those, what I'm trying to say, getting the products that aren't supposed to be in the body out of the body in the safest way. There's sometimes, if you do a really quick detox and a harsh detox, it can make you very, very sick. And we call that a healing crisis. And we want to avoid that at all costs because they can be almost life-threatening situations. And because a lot of times, Dana, and I'm sure you've encountered this too when you're working with pet parents, is they want to get this stuff done fast and they want it now. And I get that because I want my animals healthy too. But they'll throw a lot of things at an animal all at one time. And then the excretory pathways get so burdened, so overwhelmed that sometimes the toxins, instead of going through the proper channels, which would be through the kidney and the liver and all that, it comes out the skin because there's nowhere else for it to go. And then we've got these raging rashes and people are going, oh, my animal's allergic to this and that. Well, they're not really allergic. They're just trying to push the toxins out. And then when the toxins start to come out through the skin, the body sets up a war zone. And because all those cells that are trying to neutralize everything, they get in a war. And so like we have histamine granules that I'm sorry, I should say the histamine cells break open and those little histamine granules come out. And then you've got the itching and the moist dermatitis, you've got the hot spots. And so those are things that we really want to try to make sure that we're not doing it too quickly and too harshly.
Right. So what would be sort of the process? Like, let's say we wanted to vaccinate, we wanted to detox after vaccines. What's the process?
Well, there are different
Generally
ways.
speaking.
I'm sorry, what?
Generally speaking.
Okay. Generally speaking, we would take some homeopathic remedies, and the most common one is Thuja 30C. That is from the Western red cedar tree, and it basically helps support the liver so that the liver can process the stuff that the vaccines are carrying. And then for rabies, the most common one is Lyssin, Lyssin. It's a little more difficult to find. It can be found on the internet. Those are the typical protocols, but we have to keep in mind that each animal is an individual. That animal might need more milk thistle or something, or more choline to help the gallbladder and the liver, you know, rather than the homeopathic. So I try to take, at least I myself, I try to take a customized protocol for each animal, try to determine what is going on that it needs the most help with at that point. And that's where your binders and your drainage products come in, but we can talk about that in a second.
Yeah. And maybe use Harvey, because you're helping me with Harvey's detox plan. Maybe use him as an example, because we're not just we're not just detoxifying after vaccine. We're working on a whole strategy that's probably, if not weeks, maybe months in the making, right? It's not going to be a quick do this the day after, right? It's not just a one and done day after. We've got a whole thing that we have to work through here.
Well, I like I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's very difficult to get some of these excipients out of the body once they're in. And in people, we talked about this probably in the last podcast, but just for those who didn't hear it yet or are new to the program, we have the condition in people that's now been recognized as animals as well, called ASIA, stands for autoimmune syndrome induced by adjuvants. An adjuvant, like I said, is, and here's the most common one used in vaccines, is aluminum hydroxide. And what that does, the aluminum makes the immune system to go into hyper mode. And so it mounts a really strong immune system. And so when that happens, we sometimes start to see the onset of autoimmune conditions. So with Harvey, let's use him for an example. He had a vaccine that I'm sure had aluminum in it. And so what that does, okay, let me back up to Asia and finish that out. I'm getting way ahead of myself. So this ASIA condition, autoimmune syndrome induced by adjuvants, is an excess of aluminum in the body that creates issues in any organ system. And it may not be even just one organ system, it may be several organ systems. And so the most common thing that we see is autoimmune syndrome, syndromes, I should say. So to get that settled down, we have to start this detoxification program. And like I said, heavy metals are probably the number one thing on the list of excipients that's very difficult to get out of the body. So going back to the detox, the slow process, with Harvey, we're doing a little at a time. So we're not overwhelming. He's what, 10 pounds, 8 pounds?
He's
What is
14. He
Oh,
needs to be on
he's
a
a little
little bit of
bigger.
a diet, but
Yeah.
but yeah, he's little.
Yeah. And so the littler dogs get hit harder because of more excipients in their body, because the same dose of a vaccine goes into a small dog and the same dose goes into the big dogs. So a
Mhm.
150-pound Rottweiler gets 1 cc, so does a 10-pound dachshund. So, yeah, where do I start? We just have to really focus on the slow but continuous progressive purging of those toxins. So one of the things that we're doing with Harvey, and I can't remember his protocol off the top of my head, Dana, but I know that we're going to focus on getting the metals out of his system, getting the damage that his nervous system has already sustained out. We're going to support that nervous tissue. We're also going to focus big time on that liver and getting that liver healthy so that the stuff that's in him right now can get out.
Right. And so I'll tell the folks, and maybe you can comment on this. I got his labs done last week to know where we are, and they were perfectly normal. Everything was in normal range, but he is not normal. Right?
Right.
I know, I can look at him, I see it in his eyes and the iridology that we're doing, that he is still quite toxic, even though his lab work looks okay. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand.
Yes. And on that same line, I'm just going to give you an example of what I've seen in practice. You know, you've got the animal that's terminally ill, maybe has a terminal cancer, some other kind of horrific chronic disease, and you bring it into the clinic, you pull blood, the blood's normal. And then you're shaking your head like, how can everything be normal? But let's just use the kidneys for an example. 80 to 85% of each kidney has to be damaged before it'll even start to show up on blood work. Isn't that crazy? So what looks like a normal range or normal blood work is not normal. And this is where, you know, like you're doing the iridology, you can have live blood analysis done. If you know of a person in a city that has the equipment to do that, you can ship a sample of blood off and they can look at that. Sometimes hair analysis, you know, shows a lot of different deficiencies, but in the long run, kind of got off track here. So bring me back to the circle, okay? Let's do.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about how the blood work may be a little bit deceiving.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so.
Right. And it doesn't help the pet parent. It doesn't help the practitioner either.
Mm-mm.
And, you know, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so you can cut me off if you need to, but
You're fine.
I've been certified in quantum nutrition testing. Basically, that's looking at different body systems and analyzing where the imbalances are, and then finding therapies and products that help bring that back into balance
Mhm.
in a nutshell.
And that's what you're applying to Harvey, things that I
Right.
am fascinated by, but don't really know the process. So
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, if talking about vaccine detox, that's I won't say simple, but if it's certainly a pretty standard protocol just following vaccines, unless there is a reaction of some sort or something that may show up at some time later. But as we talk about detoxifying for the lymphatic system or parasites or general heavy metals that may be in our foods and waters, what frequency of detox should we consider?
That's a good question. I think that's more of an
It's loaded.
individual type of thing. With myself, I'll just use me for an example. I'm super, super, super sensitive to a lot of the products. So my detox has to go really slow, very slow. I would like to ramp it up, but I don't want to feel like I need to be 5 minutes or 5 seconds away from a bathroom all the time either. So, the frequency of detox from a lot of these different things depends on how toxic they really are. Are their systems overwhelmed to the point where it would be really hazardous to detox them until, maybe some other things have been balanced out? I can't really give you a good example, but I can give you a really good example. Years ago in practice, when I was first starting out doing the quantum nutrition testing, I had a Cocker Spaniel that came into a mixed animal practice I was working at, and he had moist dermatitis. He had this horrible rash going on, and his liver, I just felt, I mean, you could put your hand over his abdomen, you could feel the heat coming from the liver. And so they talk about the liver being angry, the organ of anger. Well, red is the angry kind of color.
Right.
And his skin was just red. And so I started him out on some prescription products that were like pharmaceutical grade supplements. And one was for the liver, it's called hepatosupport. And then I started him on some other things I can't remember exactly because it's been so many years ago. But what happened was I thought I was doing the right thing. And what happened was this dog got tremendously worse overnight, open sores, oozing. And I had to resort to steroids to get him out of that healing crisis. But his body was just peeling off so many layers all at one time that the poor little dog couldn't handle it. And I felt horrible. I made it right with the owners and everything, but that was a really big, like, hello, whap over the head. We're doing the things way too quickly. So I hope that helps some people with, not knowing what I'm talking about when I say you can't do it too quickly, and other animals, you can do it very quickly, but it all depends.
Right. And don't just wing it because some Facebook group told you to.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I have had to rein in a few of my clients. They're very, very well-meaning and they have a heart of gold. But if they listen to the Facebook group and they recommend certain things, I'm like shaking my head going, no, we're not doing that. And some of these, Dana, I don't know if you've ever run into this or not, but some of these Facebook groups, if the moderators aren't catching things, they'll be recommending over-the-counter medications like codeine for pain in a dog.
Oh, geez.
No. Huh?
I said, oh, geez.
Yeah. So we had to delete the comment and kind of talk to the person who put the post up. We're not making medical recommendations here. So, but that happens a lot.
I know. All right. So, you said that you're getting ahead of yourself. Tell me where you're going. Just, I'm gonna let you free flow here. What else do you have to share with us?
Well, I think we need to, or was one of your questions on the binders and the drainage products?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I can hit that are you okay with me talking about that now?
Absolutely.
Okay. So one of the questions that you had emailed me surrounded, what are binders and what are drainage products, and are they a new thing or have they been around for a while?
That's
Well,
right.
if you think about the binders, what a binder is something that grabs on to that toxin and holds it in place. And then I'm just putting this in as simple terms as I can. Then the drainage products are the ones that take it from that holding cell, and they'll take it to the lymph channels or the blood vessels. They'll take it to the liver, they'll take it to the kidneys, they'll take it to the colon, wherever, so the body can get rid of it. So a binder can be anything from bentonite clay. It can be charcoal, like activated charcoal. There are humic and fulvic acids. And basically a humic acid comes from humus, which is organic decaying soil. There's a lot of benefits with these things. And in the humic acid line, what these do is they chelate and bind and break down toxins and metals. Believe it or not, things from the soil can be very, very helpful.
Right.
Fulvic acids also have many other physical benefits, like they have trace minerals, they contain electrolytes, fatty acids, prebiotics, probiotics. And I found this on Dr. Axe's website. This is really interesting because I did not know this. But in the fulvic acids, they have, the chemistry includes carboxyl groups, and these release hydrogen ions, and they have an electrical charge, so they attract the metal. So remember me talking about aluminum and strontium and barium? So the fulvic acids actually attract the heavy metals, and that becomes more, they make them more water soluble so that the body can pee them out. I mean, it's just like, wow, this is way cool.
Mhm.
And they can also attract free radicals and other toxins. And then the drainage products, which basically these are things that enhance excretion. So maybe more water consumption, better blood flow, better getting rid of the stuff through the kidneys. So there are a lot of different products on the market. And I don't want to get into a specific product line, but you know, you can help people with that. I can too. You know, it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
There are a
There's
lot
some
of
great products out there. And you have some of these products are like bentonite clay is probably a gentle process, but for herbicides, I mean, we're talking a smidgen, right? It's
right,
not a lot.
right.
Then there's a more heavy duty one called carboxy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a smidgen for me, right? I
Yeah.
mean, these are there's sort of a basic one, and then there's these heavy duty ones, and you just have to be really careful with how much of each you're using and to know the strength of these things, right? It's not just a
Right.
product you go buy at the Walmart and go, let me give this a try.
Yeah. And I have a good story. And again, it's not a dog story, it's a human story, but it all applies. So my friend, she lives a few miles away from me. She is paralyzed from the waist down from a back surgery that got botched.
Oh no.
So she has a lot of health issues, and she was wanting some things for her pain and other issues. And she goes, but I want you to, before you order anything for me, I want you to see what all I have so you're not doubling up on that stuff. I said, fair enough. So I went over to her house, and she pulled out this huge plastic tray full of her supplements. And it was all like Walgreens or Walmart, the cheapest things you could order off of Amazon. And I said,
They're not helping.
no.
They're not helping.
And so she's been a very, very, very good friend of mine for years. I decided I'm going to order her stuff at my cost. I'm not going to make any money off of her, but I chose some standard process products, some energetics, cell core. And, you know, I just picked, I muscle tested to see which ones she needed. She wrote me back in a week, Dana, and she said, oh my God, I can sure tell the difference. She says, I used to fall asleep in my wheelchair at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and sleep till 4. She says, now I'm awake. I feel great. So yeah, I mean, people can spend a lot of money on this stuff and not get what they're needing.
In fact, it could make it worse, right?
Yes,
by adding
absolutely.
additional synthetics into the body and things that they don't need. And yeah, it's just a mess. So that, I guess that's one of the questions, you know, if a pet parent is implementing something, perhaps either you or I or someone like us has guided them, or maybe they're just experimenting. What does success look like? How would they know something's working?
Well, I would think that they would see better vitality in their animals, maybe a better hair coat, more energy, like I said, vitality, brighter eyes. You mentioned Harvey's eyes. You can see the imbalances through his eyes. You'll just see, you'll know it, you'll feel it, and the
Right.
animal will be happier.
Right. And
Mhm.
so I'm loving my iridology class. I've actually graduated. I've got to finish the
Yay!
final assessment, but that's one of the things that we can see the change. You can look at a dog and go, oh, those are beautiful eyes. They're just beautiful, right? They're full of
Right,
texture and color differentiate. None of that is supposed to be there.
right?
Is not.
Yeah,
And so then you can start to see the change if you monitor it week by week or even every couple of weeks, you can actually see. But even for me, just looking at Harvey, his face is less puffy to me. His eyes are clearer. Just to look at him, they seem to sparkle a little brighter. His coat is improved. His poop is improved. So those are signals of things that we need to be looking for in saying that something is working.
that's so true.
So then how do we know it's complete, or is it ever complete?
I think it's like peeling the layers off of an onion, Dana. The things that are going to come off first are the most important. And then we get down, into the deeper levels that you may not even be aware that something's been bothering you until it's gone. So I don't think it ever quits.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing. And don't let me paraphrase it wrong, but I think my interpretation of what you just said is we can resolve a layer and then something that looks completely new show up.
Yeah.
And it may
Right.
not be new, it may just be deeply rooted and now exposed.
Yep. You said it correctly. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's important for people to understand that these are not one and done things. And I always say to the people, we have to let the dog's body lead us to the next step. And we don't know what that's going to be.
Right. And I think if people are just more aware and are focused or tuned into their animal, in conventional practice, I see it all the time where, they come in, you can smell the yeast in their skin before I even come into the room, and they don't smell it. They're so used to it. Or the skin feels greasy, or the dog's flaky, and they just accept that as normal. I'm like, that is not normal, but they're not tuned into that. And they're so used to it, they fear that's just the way he is,
And that's so important. That's been on my mind too in other areas, because one of the things that I see is just people allowing anxiety to persist.
Yeah.
They just say, oh, he's an anxious dog. And I'm like, but does he have to be? Right?
Oh,
And what is that? Because we know what stress does to the body. Are we willing to accept that and just go, oh, he died young? Or could we have somehow peeled back those layers and resolved the anxiety, which in turn is feeding other health issues?
oh, you
I'm
said it.
just so stressed out about the whole thing.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree. And yeah.
yeah.
Animals mirror us. And so a lot of times we have to look at the pet parent. Is the pet parent anxious? Is the pet parent sick? Is the
Right.
pet parent depressed?
Interestingly enough, I had a call recently. I have them often, but we were talking about the dog because I can't comment on the parent for a whole
Right.
lot of reasons. One is they might get offended, but two, I can't go down that path. But I said basically about the dog, I said, and if you feel the same way this dog is feeling about the situation that happened, you need to take a look in the mirror. And
Right.
they're like, oh, and it resonated with them because this was really their issue and the dog is just following their lead. So
Yeah.
it was pretty fascinating. So
Well, the light bulb went on for them, you mean?
yep, it did.
Good.
And so and that's one of the beauties of things like homeopathy and essential oils. It does not matter the nature of the beast,
Right.
animal, human, gorilla, fish, it doesn't matter. We can all use these same modalities. So,
Right.
I'm going to ask you about detoxing the lifestyle, the environment around us, but is there anything else you would like to add about the detox processes before we move to that piece of the puzzle?
I would just kind of remind pet parents that it is not an overnight fix. It is a slow process and they must be patient with it. And there may be some bumps and hiccups along the way, and then we just have to tweak the protocol for the supplements or the products or the therapies that we're using. So, yeah.
Right. So important. And that's why I know you have packages of services. It's why I keep talking about packages of services, because when we implement the changes today, I can promise you it might be tomorrow, it might be next week, but it's going to shift. Something will
Right.
shift if we're doing
Right.
the right work. And if we're doing the wrong work, we need to know that too, right? And
Right.
so that's why having these relationships with people like you and me or whomever is so important, so you can move to that next phase.
Yeah. It's like having a coach. Everybody needs somebody to lean on, somebody to
Right.
bounce things off and guide them.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So what does it mean to detox our lifestyle?
I don't know. What can you be more specific about what you mean
Well,
by
I'm thinking
detoxing your
about, so we talk about all these things that are toxic to our bodies. And for me, that's the cleaning products and the laundry soaps and the uh, uh, Wi-Fi in the house and all of those
right.
things. So what's your take on that?
My take on it is that we have to remember that our dogs are not the same as people. They're a lot more sensitive to a lot of things. So you mentioned Wi-Fi. I tell people if you can possibly do it, shut off your Wi-Fi router at night. You don't need that. They don't need those frequencies. Keep them away from your computer. Don't let them lay on your cell phones. But
Mm-hmm.
things like I mentioned earlier on in the program where we're talking about absorbing chemicals through their foot pads. Just same way with their noses, they're sticking their noses and everything. Even if you spray a yard chemical where they don't go potty, what's to say they're not going to run over, stick their nose in that shrub or that bush that you just sprayed, and they're going to breathe in those toxins. So we
Yeah.
have to be aware of every single thing. And when we clean our houses, when we deodorize our house, it has to be with as natural products as we possibly can use. And some of the worst things are the scented candles and the Scentsies and the Glade plugins. Those are really, really toxic. So
Mm-hmm.
just have to think of everything. And for those people who use any kind of yard and garden products, just remember that it is not safe if they wait just 24 hours and go onto that lawn that's been treated. A lot of those lawn treatment companies will say, well, as long as it's dry, your pet's safe to go out. I've seen dogs as late as 1 week after application, even after rain, get sick and their liver enzymes are elevated because they went out on that treated lawn, even though it was considered safe.
You are reading my mind, because that's something that's on my uh, I don't even know, my list of aggravations, because I hear it all the time. It's a pet safe yard spray, or it's a pet safe bug killer. No, it's not. It
No.
means it won't kill your dog right now. It does not mean it's not putting toxin in the body. It just means
Right.
it's not enough to physically harm them in a significant way in this moment.
Yeah, and that reminds me of something else I wanted to bring up. You can buy a natural insect repellent because it has cedarwood and it has lavender and peppermint and all that. Hey, that's fine. But if you look at the 92% inert ingredients, inert meaning they're not the active ingredient, who knows what's in there? Is it petroleum-based oils, which a lot of times it is, a lot of your, like the horse's fly sprays, I use make my own fly sprays because there's one called Piranha out there and it looks wonderful. It smells great. But if you look at the inner ingredients, it's chemicals. Like, okay, I don't want that sprayed on my horse. I don't want to be breathing in when I do that. Same way with like some of your natural sprays that you use for your pets. Make sure that you're looking at all the ingredients and not just the active ones.
Right. And anytime it says proprietary blend, I would run.
Yeah,
We don't know what that is.
right.
Or
Exactly.
fragrance. We don't know what that fragrance really is.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I was gonna, so here's a question for you, and it's a little bit off topic, but an important one, because you talk about natural fly sprays around your horses or natural flea and tick. I'm a big fan. And honestly, I haven't had to use anything in years, but I have clients who come back and like, that didn't work for me. Why do we think that is? Why does it work for some and not others? And how can we finesse the natural in those environments to figure out how to get on the other side of it for these people?
Can you give me a specific, I think I know where you're going, but give me a specific example of what was used or asked about.
Well, so for example, somebody may say, I want a natural flea and tick using essential oils. And they may put together, based on guidance, the lavender, the geranium, the citronella, the eucalyptus, lemongrass, create this spray concoction. And then they're like, but my dog still has fleas. Or now they're in my house, or whatever. What's missing from that it wouldn't work for some of the folks?
Okay, so first of all, we have to go back to what is your dog eating? What is your animal eating? So on a high carb diet, it's going to be much more attractive to the fleas and the other biting insects because they like sugar, right?
Yep.
The other thing is, what's the quality of the essential oils that you're using? What are you cutting it with? Is it like corn oil or is it good quality olive oil? I mean, it sounds like it should be such a easy thing to figure out, but a lot of times we don't think about those carrier oils. The other thing is, what other chemicals is your dog or your kitty or your horse being exposed to? I know this is a dog talk
That's
here,
okay.
but I know a lot of people have all three animals, so okay. But mainly going back to that diet, and is it appropriate? Is it getting the nutrients that it needs? Yeah, and I'm thinking that's where you were going with that, right, Dana?
I think so, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I hear all too often, well, that didn't work. And I'm thinking, well, did you treat your yard? Is your yard clear, right? Or did you put out the diatomaceous earth and wondercide or cedarside or whatever you may want to use out there? And are you doing that consistently?
Right.
Are you spritzing your dog before you take a hike in the woods? Those kind. And then we do have to back up to the food, because I just said I haven't had to use anything on my personal dogs in years, not even an essential oil spray. And I am 100% convinced it's because their bodies are healthy. They do not attract the insects in the first place, despite what's happening in my neighbor's yard.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
And in part, I also think there is an element of, you have to believe, right? If you come in this with a it ain't gonna work attitude, you're right.
Yeah. True.
You're right.
Right. You jinxed yourself.
Exactly.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
all right. Well, what else can you share with us today? Anything on your list?
I think I've got everything on my list covered. But just for, like making sure that people just don't go by the cheapest line of synthetic products that they can, because there's an example of it doesn't work.
Right.
The body can't recognize what natural is. I'm sorry, what synthetic is. The body knows what natural things are, and in their purest, unadulterated form. Yeah, the body is able to absorb and utilize those, but not synthetics. And so if you're buying You're going down to the big box store and you're buying a $4.95 bottle of lavender. It is 100% synthetic. It is a fake oil. It's not the real thing. If they think, so I just encourage all you pet parents to really scrutinize what's in that product that you're buying. Know how to read a label, educate yourself on how to read a label.
Mhm.
I don't know, like if I pick something up, it's got 20 ingredients in it. I might be aware of 10 of those ingredients, but the other ones I have to look up. What are these and what are they doing to the body? You can do the same thing. It doesn't take a rocket scientist.
Right. And if it's an essential oil product, for example, and it's got that many ingredients in it, something's up.
Yes,
Right. Something's
absolutely.
just up. It's not supposed to be there.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I also think not only do we need to look at the product itself, but you have to look at that animal's body. Is it even healthy enough to allow what we're adding to work?
Right. Yeah. And that's where I think the diet comes in number one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. This has been fantastic.
Well, good. Thank you.
Appreciate having you here, and we're going to do as many more as you will let me.
Okay. We got a list.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Dogsplaining. We know you've got a lot of choices when it comes to dog advice. We appreciate you trusting us to keep it honest and helpful.
If today's episode helped you understand your dog's needs more clearly, share it with someone who may also need to hear it. And don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
For more resources, visit us online or join the conversation in our community. We'll be back soon with more insight into your dog's behavior, health, and wellness. Questions welcome, and we love guests.
Until then, keep listening to Dogsplaining.
Excellent.